Hello, welcome to Two Martins podcast. New month, new episode. Hi. So God has been great to us. Now our rank on Apple Podcasts, we are now 19th. Back then in January we were 345, but right now we are 19th. And thanks to everybody who has been listening. God has been good. Thanks to Faith E. Evans too. She has been listening every time. She listens and also shares her comments every time on our page. Thank you for listening every time too. So today I have two of my favorite friends. I have Andrew and I have Duffy. We are discussing about addiction. Andrew, what's up? Welcome.
Ade, thank you very much.
Charlie, everything cool?
Yes, everything fine.
I have Duffy.
Your science madam is back.
So addiction. So a friend of mine prompted me to do this podcast on addiction because she's also battling addiction on drugs. So she called and said, "Yo, I like your podcast. Can you treat anything on addiction?" And I said, "Well, okay, let's treat addiction." So, but also observing on social media and all that people are really battling addiction.
Absolutely.
And we don't really pay attention to them. So I felt like, yo, we need to talk about addiction. So we are here to talk about addiction. So how was the feeling when I told about addiction?
Well, anytime you mention the word addiction or someone's addicted to something, people think you're on a collision course, like, or you're doing something that's going to end your life immediately. But then it's something we relegate to the back, but we need to talk about it because most people are suffering from different kinds of addiction, and we need to address the issues.
Okay. Andrew?
Yes, I think what Duffy said is right. Addiction has, I think, over the years been treated both seriously and lightly. Seriously in the sense that it has become so serious that people find it difficult opening up about it. Because probably because of censure and many other things. And then lightly also because some people actually have not come to that realization that there is an addiction and they need help. So looking at it from the serious aspect, from taking it lightly, it has gotten consequences on both ends. So basically addiction is a topic worth discussing and then talking about.
So do you feel this addiction?
So even before I talk about what addiction is, Leonardo da Vinci, he said something. He said there are three classes of people: those who see when they are shown, and those who do not see. And if you are suffering from any kind or any type of addiction today, you do not see. You don't see the gravity of what you are in. And we are not here to sound judgmental. We understand we are all people that have been through different kinds. It's part and parcel of growing up as a person. So addiction actually is a mental or a brain disorder where you do something repeatedly, either for pleasure or to satisfy some kind of gains. Now there's a scientific attachment to it, that your brain releases something we call neurotransmitters, and one of them is called dopamine. So dopamine is one of those neurotransmitters telling you that, oh, you are drinking Coke, it tastes good, remember the feeling. Or maybe you are watching porno, it looks good, go and watch it again. So addiction works hand in hand with dopamine. It replaces it in your system, making you do something repeatedly over and over again.
Thank you. Andrew?
Yes. So addiction is when you continue an activity as long as it serves as a kind of reward for the human body. Like she rightly said, our body has this physiological composition, the dopamine she mentioned in the brain. Dopamine is responsible for, anything that makes you feel good, makes you feel happy. It's supposed to be on the positive side, but unfortunately, it ends up going in the negative. So when you continue an activity, as long as it gives a kind of reward or profit for the body, then we can call it an addiction.
True. So what are some of the types of addiction you have, Andrew?
Well, we have different kinds of addiction, but basically I will just narrow it down into two. That is behavioral. I'm talking about addictions that come as a result of behavior. And then we also have substance addiction. When we say substance, we're talking about drugs, we're talking about alcohol, we're talking about tobacco, cocaine, we're talking about even marijuana and all of these things. Yes. And behavioral, we are looking at addictions that have to do with a particular kind of character, a character trait. People are addicted to food, addicted to sex, addicted to pornography, masturbation, theft, even hard work.
Social media.
Yes, social media. Yes, even
Hard work can be addiction.
exactly. That is what I'm trying to say. That as both positive and negative. Like
okay.
with the definition that we gave earlier, as long as what you are doing is giving a kind of reward.
Okay.
A reward can be good, a reward can be bad. There are people who call themselves workaholics. I mean,
Yeah,
they will
true.
work and work and work because they're seeing profit.
Yeah,
you know,
true.
so in that case, it's not a negative addiction. It is good. People are addicted to religious belief systems, both negatively
Dogmatism.
and then positively. So, I mean, if you want to group them into two major categories, then we'll just say substance and then behavioral addiction.
Thank you very much. Dufi, have you experienced any form of addiction before or been close to anyone with addiction?
You know, funny enough, when I spoke with you and we spoke about addiction, I kept on walking each and every day. What am I addicted to? What am I addicted to? I was trying to figure out and realized that I'm addicted to taking unhealthy stuff.
Okay.
I'm addicted to taking soda, which is not good for our system because of the refined sugar. And I realized that anytime I found myself down in the dumps or something, I kind of found solace in taking soft drinks. And I'm so happy you guys don't get to see us because I'm really big, so drinks are not good for me. But then I'm addicted to finding solace and pleasure from soft drinks when I'm stressed out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Andrew.
Yes, I think just after my BEC, I happened to visit somebody, stay with a person for some time. And then I chanced upon these, we call them blue filmers at the
Blue
time.
film, yeah.
I decided to, hey, what is this? I've heard my friends talk about it.
Yeah.
I never paid attention to them. But that day, I just decided to have a look. And it turned from having a look to having constant look.
Yeah.
You know, and it was a major battle for me. I mean, as we progress along, we'll talk about yes, how
True.
people get up into it and all that. But basically, that was one of the major things. If I say my whole life I'd ever been addicted to, then it had to do with pornography.
Me too. So back then in 2006, I think 2006 or 2003, I think 2003, I also had a friend whose father had a lot of pornography tapes. Yeah, so we used to watch it back to back, and it got to a point that I knew the names of the actors in it, so I can call out the names. Oh, I know this lady, I know this guy in this pornography thing, and we became like a squad. I had these friends of mine. We were 5 in group, and we were learned people in class. We used to top our class. So when you go to the friend whose father had the tapes, the friend's mom thought we were going to learn or something. But every time it's about the pornography, and you watch it.
Learn about life, yeah.
Almost every week you watch pornography. Almost every week. And we became so addicted to it that at the point we started buying decks of pornography too.
To watch, yeah.
So let's go to the next question. Andrew.
Yeah.
How was the experience with your addiction?
Well, before I tackle that, I want to tackle the experiences people have with addiction from I call it initial creator's point of view. Now, every human being has been created in such a way that I call the human body or the human composition a hollow. In the sense that we're not created to be empty. As we know, nature abhors vacuum. So you see God creating man, and then the first thing he puts in man is the spirit of man. And all of these things are supposed to make us do the right things. Now, coming from that point, it means that it's not really about what enters you. It's about how that thing controls your behavior.
Okay.
Now, that is what I'm saying, that before I talk about the experience can be based on how society views what I'm calling an addiction, how standards view what I am calling an addiction, how perspectives view what I am calling an addiction. So me being a Christian, with what I was watching, I would say it was a bad experience for me because my faith is telling me that I am not supposed to allow these things to fill that void because it's going to harm me. And eventually it did. I was losing my self-esteem. I was becoming less confident of myself. I was shying away from people. So initially it was a good feeling. Dopamine will register as a reward for the body because after you watch, you feel kind of satisfied in a way.
True.
But you finish and you are more hungrier in terms of there's something missing in your soul. There's something that makes you sad instead of making you happy. You understand? So based on responding to the word experience, I think it is dependent on what somebody is affiliated to. So coming from my faith Christianity, of course, that is not the standard my Bible tells me. So it was, of course, a bad experience, not good for my well-being. And I think basically the world has general standards, and I don't think it was a good thing. Not at all.
Yeah, Dufie.
I like the fact that Andrew mentioned filling a void, and that's one of the contributors of addiction, because even though we are saying addiction is from a medical point of view, psychologically or physiologically, there's a huge, there are huge factors that play a role in somebody being addicted to something. When you feel some emptiness, you find something to fill that void or that vacuum. Sometimes people in bad relationships tend to be sex addicts in subsequent relationships because they are trying to compensate for a missing link in their lives. So definitely for mine, I'm still addicted to soda. And I know it's not good, but I always say that you need to take up the gauntlet, and it needs to start from me before anything else, because people are going through much more serious cases of addiction. Andrew spoke about substance, meth, cannabis, so people are addicted to talking about others.
So,
let's not forget about that.
Okay.
With the point you raised, that you need to fill a vacuum, I was contemplating on back then, 203, when I was in junior high school. I can't pinpoint a point that I felt I was missing something in my life. I just chanced on my friend's dad having pornography tapes, and I felt like watching it over and over again, all that. So I'm trying to draw the inference between that vacuum thing. Is this always about you missing something? If you were a
kid who, your side day is structured, you go to the basketball court, you come back, you play PlayStation, then your mommy takes you to the shopping mall, you wouldn't have the time to go and watch porno.
Yeah, okay. So it means I didn't have an activity.
Absolutely. The devil finds it for the idle hands to do.
True.
So you didn't have an activity. You found that to be fun. That was your side day, pleasure, leisure pursuit.
Okay.
But then it's not always the fact that probably is filling a void. Some people feel content but addicted to something. But like what Andrew said, you be satisfied at this moment, hungrier than this, because your conscience will play with you each and every minute of the day.
Well, I think also around the time that you were talking about, even my own experience, I mean, we are just entering into adolescence. And at that time, our bodies, our hormones are producing more, sexual hormones for our development. So at that point in time, you didn't realize, or we didn't realize, that it was a response to our psychological makeup, a response to our reproductive growth. So you don't understand, we didn't understand it back then. We are now discovering the sexual part of our being. We are now exploring. So you watching Addiction at that time, it wasn't just for the fun of it, or not just like Dufie said. Very important when children don't have that kind of bonding with their parents. Parents are supposed to fill a particular void in children. When that is not there, these things get in the way and fill that void. But aside that, also your body was exploring sexual adventures in the positive way. Hormones were being produced and all that. So we didn't realize at that time that our body needed education to be told that what you are going through in this stage, it's normal. So you are not supposed to fuel it with these things. I think that it was a direct response to our hormonal changes that we didn't realize at that time.
And some of these things, nobody sits you down to tell you that your body, of course, you be taught something in school, but you don't have that interpersonal conversation with your family or anybody. So it becomes strange to you.
Exactly.
Become a bad boy, become a bad girl, and it makes it worse. Because that will be your comforting place.
True.
But you keep on going back to it.
So back to Andrew, what are some of the early signs of addiction?
Sometimes it takes a long time for somebody to actually realize that you've been addicted to something. For instance, I didn't actually think I was addicted because I could stop at any time and resume at any point in time. I could break the activity, I could go back. And it wasn't just, I could give myself a 1 week break and tell myself, no, this week I am not going to watch it. I'm not going to watch anything. And then just the next week, I'm back. So when I realized that it now started affecting my psychological well-being, I realized that in the midst of people, I started shying away within. Even though my friends were very okay with me, I wasn't, the usual bad boy around that time, but there was something deep within me that was telling, I go to church, the messages that are being preached over there is rather bringing me to realization that no, what I'm doing is not what is acceptable, both by what I believe, what my parents have taught me, what even society, because I don't think that any good society will encourage anything that will diminish or reduce the self-esteem of people. So the early signs of addiction normally begins with a normal realization. You don't realize that something. So until it starts breaking your conscience, start affecting your physical well-being in terms of disturbing your peace, making you shy away from people, growing inferiority complex. Then when you begin to see these signs, then you realize that actually you are being addicted.
Yeah, and to add to what Andrew is saying,
Sure.
you know, you have different kinds of addiction, like we said. An addiction like a gaming addiction. Now, what makes you go back to playing the game is not because you won or you got a high score. It's the number of times that you are close to getting a high score.
Oh, okay.
That's what will put a craving in you to keep on going back. So the boys that go to these jackpot places and these gaming centers, it's not the number of times they win, it's the number they were close to winning.
Oh, okay. So you match your past scores.
So anytime you see when you're playing again on your phone, maybe Surfboard, Surface or whatever, you know, anytime you're getting close to your high school, you want to get back to it because you want to beat your past record. So you see, it becomes a routine. You don't even realize it's fun and enjoyable from the beginning, but then it begins to get, you know, disastrous.
I think that can also be traced to the youth's sense of impact. You know, like you said, when you are getting closer to winning, then that keeps driving you. So it means that at that point in time, that is when you are developing that sense of achievement as a growing person. Means that you now found something, worthy of pursuit because you want to make a mark. Yeah. You want to achieve something.
True.
Yes. So you will not see it, you will think that, or you may not know that what you're actually trying to do is that you are trying to achieve something that you've never done before, which is actually good, but is going in the wrong way. So actually, bringing us back to the question, as an early sign of addiction, like I said, it's subtle. You may not realize it. All you think of is, I want to achieve something. I want to achieve something. That this achievement, like the video games, I know somebody, he started stealing money. Then you see that it started resulting into vices. Then you realize that you have veered off from just an achievement to something very negative that nobody will be happy with.
Absolutely.
So Dufie, when did you realize it was an addiction you were going through, or the addicted person you know?
Well, for mine, I realized that, going back to transmitters, neurotransmitters, your brain releases one of the transmitters called cortisol. And for that, some people like me, it makes you bigger. So anytime my brain releases cortisol, I know it's because I'm drinking soda.
Okay. So
that's when I realized that, no, this is an addiction. And even just this week, I was stressed out and I took several bottles
of soda.
So that's when I realized it was an addiction. And it's not been easy on me because it's detrimental to my health as well. But then now that I'm in the realization, now that I'm in the know that this is actually a problem, I'm going to take steps to make sure that I come to an end. It's going to be a means to an end because it needs to stop in my life.
Andrew.
Yes, sir.
Your realization.
Just at the point that I got to know that it was against what my faith was telling me, and it was rather shrinking confidence that I just knew that I was addicted to something. I think I didn't actually also know the consequences of it until one time I heard somebody talk about it on radio. So listening to it and he opening to my eyes to the consequences I could have if I continue with it, then I realized that no, I'm addicted to this thing. So it didn't actually come from me, but from someone else talking about it.
Yeah, and that can be called a shock therapy, where like probably there was a show called Freaky Eaters, and one particular lady was addicted to coke. I'm like, ooh, that's so cool. It's so nice to be addicted to Coke, but that's not an African thing because you can't afford to buy cartons of Coke to be addicted. And you see, what happens in the show is the people will come to your house and they'll show the number of Coke probably you take in a year or in a month, and it's cartons and cartons. So out of the shock, you decide to change. But some of them do not change.
Okay.
So that is actually deep seated. Okay. It's not just something very simple. So for what Andrew was saying, it was a shock therapy that, wow, this is where my life can lead me if I do not stop this thing.
True. And that was my point of realization. Yeah.
Wow. So what are some of the causes of addiction?
So many. Aside the fact that it's a brain disorder, sometimes, like I said, psychologically, physiologically, your environment, life problems can cause addiction.
Can we focus more on the environment part? Because most of our addictions I've known and the ones I've been through, it all boils down to our environment, the family.
Absolutely. But one thing I would say is exposure in a way. Because now, say you were a kid in a small community in Accra, you don't watch TV, so you don't know that actually when my girlfriend or my boyfriend breaks up with me, I need to go and take meth or cannabis or tramadol. But you watch TV, you're exposed to pop culture, you see it on TV, you see it on the news, that is what people do. You're like, okay, actually maybe it can help me. So exposure to these things is one. Secondly, the absence of bonding between family can really result in addiction. If your family, you don't sit down to have a family time, you're in your room playing games, social media, watching porno, it can all result in addiction. And also, one main thing that can also result in addiction is the lack of self-esteem.
Okay.
Explain.
In the sense that you do not have confidence in yourself, you don't know who you are, where you are going, what you want to be, so you hop on any bandwagon around you. Anything that gives you instantaneous pleasure, you're on it.
You're on it. Andrew, causes?
Yes, I think one of the things we also don't realize as contributing factors to addiction is temperamental disposition. When I say temperamental disposition, I'm talking about character traits. We know basically about 4-5 major types of temperament: sanguine, melancholy, choleric, and then what we call phlegmatic, and then there's another one also we call the supine. Now, for a sanguine is a fun person. I mean, for a sanguine, an addiction will just be for the fun of it. I mean, we realize that in secondary school we have some seniors who, indulge in these things, and after school they ended it. Yes, and it wasn't a problem for them at all. Ended it. We are out of school. I'm out of that company. That is typically of a sanguine. For a melancholists normally, have addictions based on relationship and then devotion to something. They are not too out there. So the little thing that can give them a sense of relationship, whether good or bad, they want to cling to it. So for a melancholy, it's not his fault or her fault that a person is melancholy, but the person finds himself with such a temperament that can also cause an addiction. So if, for instance, you're having a very good time with somebody and the person leaves you for a melancholy, the melancholy must find a substitution. Can be alcohol, can be cannabis, can be cocaine, anything that can satisfy or make for the relationship lost. A melancholy will go for it. For a choleric who is all the time, up and doing things, a choleric will employ an addiction for the punishment of somebody or for the punishment of his own self because of ego. A choleric always wants to be the one driving things and the one doing this leading stuff. So, for instance, in a relationship, a choleric will a relationship with somebody, and then the person also goes. A choleric can go in for another woman, not because he loves the person, but wants to prove a point. And due to that, get on an addiction without even realizing it. And then we have what we call the phlegmatics. They are the extreme. They are either too cold or too hot. So for such people also, they will employ an addiction just for the extremity of it and the effect that it will give them. And then the supine that I was talking about, they are what we call the sycophants. They are just following it because everybody is going this way. That is how they get their sense of satisfaction. So I think your temperament can easily influence, and then your health.
I want you to.
And then your health. Yes, there are some people that have gone on addiction. enrolled on an addiction, not because of any of these other things, but for health reasons. There are some, they have to take a particular drug. They have to add some alcohol to it. So it's not their fault, but they just get hooked up to alcohol, hooked up to a particular drug because of their health reasons, and they're addicted, and they can't really do much about it.
Can we fault them?
We can't really fault them depending on what caused it. Some were born with conditions that would need a particular administration of a drug. What can they do about it? Very little or nothing at all can be done.
And in terms of addiction, you really can't give fault to nobody, because like you're saying, it starts from the mind, and sometimes you cannot control all the things that the mind does. So you see, so you can't say, oh, you are addicted to your phone, so you are not being good enough. No, it's an addiction, it's a medical condition, and it can be treated. Just like you can treat malaria, you can treat addiction.
Because I have a friend, she has this chronic pain, and when it comes, the only thing that makes it go down is taking weed. And weed is legal too, so she has to take weed in her room, and she's been addicted to it.
Wow.
And when we talk, I don't know, like, I feel like she can stop, and it feels like she can't, because that's the only way to also get out of the pain. Because she was born that way. She was born to feel those pains, and it has been all her years feeling those pains too.
Wow.
So sometimes I feel the imbalance between the addiction, because she didn't get herself into it. The whole situation brought it. So I don't know where. I don't know.
In such instances, we could actually enroll them on alternative programs, or that is when research is coming. I mean, fortunately for us, science is evolving, things are changing. So if weed will not work, other things will also work. Yes. So we can also just say that just because that is my condition, we are making ourselves pay for what we didn't initiate. If we have that mindset, we may never ever be able to also come out from any form of addiction.
Dufie, what are some of the consequences of addiction?
Wow, there are lots and lots of them, but then I think the primary one is losing yourself.
Losing yourself, okay.
Losing yourself, losing your ability to reason out of a situation. It makes you, one consequence of addiction, really, it can affect the economic structure of a country. In the US, they spend lots and lots of money on addiction that results in crimes, that results in health, that results in, vandalizing, state properties and all that. And even when it comes down to, an individual perspective, it can really jeopardize a lot of things in your life, relationship-wise, educationally, or even when it comes to the fact that you will not be able to resonate to others, because there's a stigma that comes along with addiction. If you're addicted to meth, or addicted to cannabis, or addicted to sex, especially sex, you're not allowed to talk about these things in our society, but then if you're addicted to sex, you become like this, repulsive figure to people. But then I want people to know, people shouldn't treat people that way. We need to help them, we need to be there for each other, because addiction is, even though some people actually fabricate it for themselves, let's not forget that. Most people to find themselves in it, like you are saying. So there are several consequences of addiction.
Andrew?
Yes, I think the first thing is you, the person addicted. That'll be the first point. Then it begins to spread. I mean, Dufie has talked about how economically expensive addictions can be, but most importantly, a lot of dreams have been cut short and cut off because of addictions. I've known very good musicians who started with very bright potentials, bright future, before we realize something led to another, either a medical condition or bad company, and a whole career. Now, we can sometimes tell the consequences of something by looking at the blessing it has been to others. Let's look at the rising of let's say, a musician. Now, when a good person with a good heart rises, it is not just about him, the person. Look at all the other people that rise with him. I think when we're talking about some of them, like the Hammer, for instance. One person Obrafo is there, Sarkodie is there, Adam is there, Tiny is there, Ocham, just one person. And this guy was not actually in the country. I mean, all his relatives are outside. He just decided to, let me stop school, let me do this thing. And his rising has brought all. I was just asking myself that, so if this guy decided not to pursue his vision, his dream, all these destinies probably may never have found a voice.
Wow. Be not upright.
Exactly. Yeah. So look at the blessing that it has brought. Then we can tell the consequences that addiction is having on society when people are cut off from their dreams. People could have been doctors, people could have been lawyers, people could have been artistic people in various areas.
Like Kiki Jan at one point was one of the best
essential example
pianists in the world.
And recently, you remember I wrote something about music and people. I talk about Shakur, Tupac Shakur, and Biggie. These were phenomenal artists.
Yeah, true.
But then because of drugs and all that, they begin to clash, and they both died prematurely.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you continue.
Exactly. So even with Whitney Houston and all these people. Yeah. So I mean, addiction, the negative addiction, has not paid society well. We've not gotten good results from it. Not to even talk about families that are broken.
Yeah. True.
Marriages that are broken because of there is a whole lot of chaos that addiction have greatly contributed to. So that weighing the consequences alone should be enough impulse for somebody to decide and say, hey, one thing that made me stop this pornography altogether was that I started reading about the impact that pornography has had on people. And it's not even just about me viewing, but the people that are being used as well. A lot of child trafficking. There are a lot of them that didn't do it because they wanted to.
Yeah,
some of them were pushed into it. Yes, I've seen single mothers in it, and some have become pastors and have changed out of it. So look at all these, and they are just enriching this pimps, and the money is not worth it.
True.
Looking at the impact, the drugs they take, this porn actors,
to do that.
Exactly. That is why it's not even realistic saying that as a married person or as somebody, some of the really flimsy, or excuse me to say, foolish excuses that we're giving to ourselves. Oh, I want to watch it so that when I also marry, I can know. Some of the things they do there can only be done by Taekwondo masters.
And that's no teacher.
Yes, you see, it wasn't made that way. It can only be done by karate masters.
Gymnastics.
Gymnastics, serious gymnastics. It's not real. And the way they even treat some of them in it, I looked at all this, I was like, whoa. If that was my sister right there, I'm not going to watch this thing.
True.
So the consequences was not just about me. Realizing all the other people that are being caught up in this evil was a wake-up call. I was like, no.
So with the end product, we're also supporting the movement.
Exactly. The bundles you buy, the roaming about in the sun and all this. So it's not even just about it. So when we look at addiction in the global viewpoint, we are running at great losses.
Wow.
That alone should be an impetus for change.
Wow.
Yeah.
Dufie, can addiction have a spiritual connotation?
That's difficult to say, but then everything, like I always say, has a metaphysical underpinning and a physical outcome. So definitely there can be some spiritual connotation to it. I wouldn't say for fact that probably if somebody's addicted to gossiping, because that can be an addiction that is spiritual. Somebody somewhere is causing that. But definitely, like I even said, that the devil finds work for the idle hands to do. So in this kind of case, you found yourself spiritually, fabricating a life for you. But then basically it is a medical condition proved by science. It has its causes, it can be treated, and people can come out on the other side better than they are.
Okay, thanks. Andrew?
Yes, from the kind of work I'm a man of God, and then my position as a counselor, I would say yes and no. Addiction can have serious spiritual consequences. I've talked to people who, let me use pornography, started off that way, and then before they realized, they started having dreams of people sleeping with them in a dream, and there is a spiritual battle that has to be dealt with. And that from my line of work as a man of God, I've seen marriages break because somebody had a dream, somebody was sleeping with her, woke up, emotions changed, the man says, I don't want to be with you again. Until deliverance happened, the marriage actually collapses. So it does. Sometimes it doesn't begin off spiritually. And I know some addictions also that have started purely from a spiritual point of view, and then it manifested. I know somebody who had a dream that somebody had given him a substance to take. Right afterwards, the person started developing interest for cannabis and these things.
Wow.
So breaking off the person of that spiritual attack, the person also immediately ceased the connection. So it is so. I've seen it in several, and we shouldn't also just limit spiritual to just maybe how do I even term it?
Voodoo and all
yes,
that.
we can also talk about spiritual in terms of the soulish component of people. For instance, hallucinations. People having hallucinations, people having wrong mental disorders. All these things you can't measure with science, but we have a science relation to them. So spiritual is not just in terms of the religious aspect. That is what I'm trying to say. But in terms of metaphysical, composition of the whole thing also can also be very. But like I said, I've seen it, and so it is true.
It's true.
Yes, it is true.
I think we are spiritual beings. So anything that happens to the body happens to the soul too.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. So there's surely an impact in the spiritual realm too.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. So the next question, Dufie, how can one start the process of coming out of addiction? Coming out.
The first point is a realization. As soon as you realize that I have a problem, then you're on your way, to get out of this. Then secondly, you can source for advice from people that have come out from the same problem, like people that take alcohol or stuff like that. You can talk to somebody, say, there's a problem I have, how did you get out of it, and all that. Because unfortunately in our country, most of us don't have the funds to go to a rehabilitation center like in the Western world.
How many are they?
You don't even have enough. Don't talk of you going there. So it's always from a point of view where you need to be like an individual form of healing, treatment. But aside that, there are medical treatments for addiction. There are some drugs that some people take to suppress addiction, like smoking. You can take nicotine gum so that you stop smoking. I was with one woman one time, and she smokes a lot, and she told me that she put on a pad on her tummy, and for 4 hours she didn't smoke.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So they're all forms of treatment. So basically, there's medical treatments where we can. There's also psychology treatment, or we can use cognitive biases treatment as well. Because sometimes from a point of depression too can lead you to addiction for a particular activity. So there are lots and lots of treatments.
Andrew.
Yeah, breaking out from addiction, one thing we must also realize that we must understand and then believe that if it started, that it can end.
Wow.
Mainly, people don't make any effort because they feel that they are helpless, they are lost.
Yes.
Nothing but you must have that understanding that if it really started, then you can end it. Another thing you also have to understand with addiction is that the willpower to stop an addiction is in your hands.
Yes.
You don't just fall into mud and just be wallowing in it. If I tell you stand up, you should stand up. So the power to stop it is not in the substance. You are addicted to drugs. It's not in the drug. It is in you because you take the drug. The drug doesn't, jump off and then come into your. So you should understand that the willpower to stop the pornography, the food, the sex, the drug, and all of these kind of addiction, the power is first in your hands, not in the substance. But then also, we shouldn't confuse temptation with the actual act. That is one of the things that has made a lot of people keep on with addiction. When I say temptation, for instance, you are craving. Some of the inducing effects of addiction. You are craving for a particular medicine, particular drug, a particular behavior. Activity. The craving for the activity is not the same as having the activity itself. So you don't say that, because I'm craving for it is the same as me having it. No, it's actually a big difference. It's not the same thing. So people should understand that the fact that you are craving for pornography, craving for masturbation, craving for drugs, craving for sex, craving for food, craving for something, doesn't mean you have had it. You understand what I'm trying to say? Yes, because people are deceived by the fact that because the craving is strong, it's as equal as me having it. It is not so. So that is also a deception we should come from. And then also we should avoid contact. We should suffocate the source of the addiction. For instance, in my case, I stopped using, at that time I'd gotten a phone that could pick up, do internet. I stopped using the phone altogether. I remember about 5 years ago, I had this phone that had this app. All the time the pop-up ads had to do with somebody trying to naked themselves. That was a pop-up. I realized that no, if I don't delete this app, it may make me relapse. I just uninstalled it. You understand? So if you're addicted to pornography, for instance, and you know that there are apps you have on your phone that will always entice you, why do you want to play the Superman role? Prevention is always better than cure. So don't keep the app in the name of, I can manage it. You don't act Hercules.
You need to be strong-willed.
Yes, Hercules will still fall on slippery grounds, no matter your muscles. You understand? So when you look at the source of the thing, try possible to suffocate. It's like, for instance, an addiction from a group of company. The best way to avoid it is not to be a part of that company. But you don't find yourself there and then say, help me, I'm lost, there's nothing I can do. This company, somebody help. You know, so look at the source of the addiction and then truncate that source. If you have to relocate from the vicinity, relocate. If you have to switch your phone from an Android to a YAM, use a YAM for about a month or two. Yes. So look at for the source of it, and then you truncate. Also appreciate every progress, no matter how small. For instance, you started. Maybe you used to do it about 4-5 times in a day, in a week. Now you've gotten to 3. Be happy. Yay! I've gotten to. Even though you have not fully gotten the results you want, even if it's one act short of what you used to do before, celebrate it and be happy, because
progress.
Yes, that releases a kind of motivation for you to end it completely. And then also, you should also give allowance for some falls and comebacks. There are people that stop something, and then once in a while when they find themselves doing it, they are like, this thing that I said I won't do again, but then they eventually let me throw myself into it. No, it started over a period of time. It may not stop abruptly. It may take a period of time to also end it. So you should also understand that once in a while you may find yourself watching. Sometimes it may not be intentional. You are sitting in a public transport, the next guy by you is watching some serious pornographic video. You look here a little as if you're looking at the maid, then you look a little as if you're looking at the that can make you go back. But it's okay. Give room for some force. We are not encouraging you to remain, but if once in a while you find yourself into it, it's some way you can't explain, it's okay. Get up, shake away the guilt, and just move on and then make progress. And then also be intentional. You don't leave breaking away from addiction to chance. It's like taking medicine. If you're sick of a condition, if you have malaria and you say, it may go, it may never go, you have to be intentional about it. Yes, like Duffy was saying, you have to seek help. That is one of the problems that people have. Now, sometimes I don't blame it, because they don't actually know who to seek help from. You're talking to this person, the next time your news is all over the place. But at the long run, you should trust that there is somebody out there that has been through or not been through what you've been through, but can help you. Just seek help. And then lastly, what I want to say is that allow people to get to that point where they need help before you help them.
Explain.
There are some, you see, you can't. There's an adage that goes like, you can force a donkey to the river, but you can't force it to drink. Somebody is smoking, somebody is drinking, somebody is in some serious addiction. The person has not yet seen it as disaster, as dangerous or harmful to the person. If you want to come from your point and say that no, this thing you are doing, I'm forcing you out of it, you may rather let the person do it more to prove to you that it's not giving me the harm you think it's giving me. So the best you can do is that offer education to the person, for the person to realize the consequences and allow them to come to that realization. In counseling, for instance, you don't counsel somebody who doesn't think they need counsel. Even when people bring their spouses that talk to my husband for me, if their husband himself doesn't see anything wrong what he's doing, don't force it. People have rather forced people to change, and that has rather made them become deeply addicted to things. So we should also watch it, because it can really influence people addicted to something.
Wow. I love this topic. Duffy, closing remark.
My closing remarks is that I want people to know that misuse too is not addiction.
Explain.
You may be misusing something, but you're not necessarily addicted to it. Some people think that probably, say, anytime I have a headache, I'll go and take something like paracetamol or Panadol, whatsoever. And for the fact that I'm doing that, it means I'm addicted to that drug. But that's not the case. Because if, say, I wouldn't take paracetamol if I don't feel uncomfortable. I will take it because I feel uncomfortable. So I've been taking it too much, which is a misuse. But I'm not addicted to the drug because I don't take it to, give me some sort of satisfaction. Yes. So we should get that in the first place. That maybe it's using a substance or something, but you're not addicted to it. And also, like Andrew has, explained into detail, there's so much you can do. If you need help, if you're listening to this podcast and you need help, try and get in touch with Kwadwo, and then we get you to the right people to talk to.
You can share your social media handle if somebody wants help.
So I'm always on email. So send me an email at dufebuachi8@gmail.com, and you can also share your contact information. They can get in touch with us.
Sure. Andrew, question mark.
Yes. So what I want to say is that it is not too weird. Don't feel too strange when you are going through an addiction, and don't accept that lies that nobody can understand you, nobody can help you. It is not true. I've counseled people, and just by them having the confidence to open up was therapy, was healing in itself. So don't think that what you're experiencing is out of the blue. At that time when I was going through all of that, I had not really seen much people. Because I've not heard, I was not that exposed to other people going through the same thing. But the day I realized that, hey, actually I'm not alone. The other people, that alone gave me a kind of confidence to actually seek help. So when you're going through any kind of addiction, please don't feel that you are alone and you can't be understood. It is a deception that will keep you addicted. So seek help, and really you will have the power to change as always with you and in your hands, not in the substance that is getting you addicted.
I'm a Christian, so I believe in the word of God. And God said he created us in his own image, and God has all the power. There's power in us. Anything you want to start and stop is within. So just make up your mind. And pray. As Andrew said, it's a process, a day at a time. And stop, because there are so many people who have gone through the same thing I'm going through, and they are better now. So
the mere fact that it has a name means that somebody started it and has given it a name.
It's there. So there's hope for you. There's hope for you, buddy.
I see you following submission. I know you're wishing that you could let your head down and mirror my emission.